Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you very much for the invite from the Tree Reading Series, and for mentioning all the poems I wasn't going to read. I might have to change my list now, but we'll see how that works out. No, it's great to be able to read an Ottawa for the first time. It's a real honor, and I actually have an Ottawa poem, so obviously I have to read it. Doesn't matter how good it is. No, it's actually about leaving Ottawa, but what's left behind. From my first collection, The Delicate Line, I'll just read a few poems from this and then move on to the second of my most recent book. Potential. I stand in Ottawa Airport, gazing at the fountain, fumbling its imitation of glacier melt. And over at the departure lounge, a birch bark canoe beached on display. How much this wants memory without memory, emotion for more than I can hope to see. I've been staring at the landing strips, Christopher Pratt emptiness about a mile all around. What we call hub, point, terminal. Everything to exclude ourselves from the mechanics. How often beauty is just this sort of edge point, my own slow motion. Tonight I'll be north of Toronto, tired by miles I still can't conceive. The time it takes to find my car, the highway that grumbles its pessimism for poets pretending to know much better. Undeterred, I will dream of fissures, the perfection of pavement giving way to a wriggle of water, a rustle of weeds, the prow of a boat. Now, this next poem is a seasonal poem. It's a season that has passed just recently, and I'm sure you'll all recognize it by the title. It's called Please Play Again. I rush through my morning cup of coffee, fumble and roll the rim with wet fingers as if I wish to smoke the dregs. Please play again. Now coffee comes dressed in disappointment too, a game of chance. So fitting, my eyes dilated, done up in grandma wraparound sunglasses. On defense since the eye doctor, the swim of the street, technicolor brutality, reappel on speed. Please play again. My eyes have been plucked, packed in brine, not the tiniest bit their usual Busby Berkeley routines. Red takes on new meaning, the shimmer of buses and signposts, lip gloss and purse straps, a waiver of what it must be like to be only moments, pure body, sharp relief. And I start to enjoy it. And what I like most is the absence of words. A few hours without that way of stopping mid-stride to read a sign, puzzle out a piece of news, torn haphazardly from a paper, everything goads me firsthand. Please play again. When the construction workers joke over the asphalt, tell me to climb over the bulldozer to save my sneakers, I think that might just be the thing to do. Perch up in its yellow cab and come straight out into the street, into gear, up the sidewalk. Although it would be enough to sit atop its engine, just feel the rumble. And this last poem that I'll read from The Delicate Line has a special place in my heart because it's the first ever poem I had accepted for a magazine. So obviously I was thrilled. It's called Giving It Up for Bill Frisell. I listen to his music like a dog learns the pinewood floor's woof, the paw scratch shuffle, the slipper hiss, the welcoming creak of a house playing the bones. Don't ask me to sing it or describe, I'll only bark or whimper. But come close enough, listen to the pant leg ruffle, toes curling around the chair leg, the grr at the back of my tongue. I'm a dead giveaway for joy. Carol, thank you again for that introduction. It was really beautiful, and of course you've taken the words out of my mouth in introducing this book. It's really talking about the title, Little Empires, is really all about the safe places we create at work and at home. And I came up with the title, and then my publisher was like, great, what about a poem with that title, if you can think of anything? And I've just seen Jack Chambers, the painter Jack Chambers. He has this unfinished painting called Lunch. And it's a portrait of him and his family eating lunch. And this was a reflection on that. Little Empire. When you painted the linear cleanliness of your family presiding over Sunday lunch, was it really, as some critics say, divine inspiration, with Jesus about to appear at the empty chair on your right? The joyous kingdom of the steady, the sated you suggest, is in this focus, scrubbed walls, neatly ordered snow, and the one lily thriving in an aura's smudge of light. Yet you left it unfinished, and we can't not ask why. The riddled Persian rug you insisted be included, illness, avoiding its purchase, 9 years, no conclusion. But what would it be completed? The glory of empire, holy or lay, is in the martial troops, the choir-sung hymns, the peak not yet reached, but in view. Here, the room is still breathing into color, the reflections in the eyes of your 2 boys, unfocused but sharpening, wanting so much to see. Now, many of the poems in this book are actually love poems to my beloved Christy. But it's really about the developing relationship between the two of us. And the first 2 poems that I'll read of those love poems are about when we first met. And the first is from my perspective, and the second is from hers. This is called The Setup. Impossible wooden brides draped in cottonmouth pinks and sea-lit greens chide me from your shop window. Ignorant of names, I chafe against their wordless jeweled throats. This is you. I form you from ghosts. My back spasms and I wince myself out of the wishing wonder if meeting you will be a sharp departure. Does our baggage dash any chances, and have I always misconstrued sacrifice? What will I make it at this time? Pathetic patter, this desire for full or other. The past stacks its spires high, of course, as if to preserve in its encampment something almost had. But I'm told I'll like you, and keep staring into the store's heart, summoning a belief in stone and hard rains. Pretty punks straddle the corner talking smack, a spit of me wanting a smart remark, spoiling for a fist. But nothing takes. I talk myself out of invention, spare you the collar of expectation. And this next poem is called Meeting. It's Christy told me a little bit about what she was thinking after we first met, and this is loosely based on that. Meeting. This is not a fever heat waiting for frenzy to subside into sense. Don't even call it curiosity. Just a customer, the alacrity of his handshake, coffee and cinnamon introduction. This is nothing more, polishing the glass of her display, correcting the fall of silver and stone. This is her hand, busying out that gesture, his palm's confident press. She is practicing the only touch she believes in right now, the quietude of elegance, carefully cut and strung. Now, I love shopping in used bookstores, as I'm sure you all do. And I found Paul Durkin's Christmas Day, a book I've come to love a great deal. But it was very sad when I found this particular copy of it because it had this very nice inscription in it. And yet I was buying it. And the inscription is also the title of this poem. It's called Cha, I Love You and Always Will. An inscription written by Linda, Christmas 96, foot of the first page of Paul Durkin's Christmas Day, his celebration of woman hunger and bromance. Each time you open it, this lost link, random failure incised in the copy you found among other anxious voices papering a used bookshop. What made him sell her words? Unless Linda, a chancer, wrote her love a game of hide and seek, inscribing random tracts of that same block letter sentiments. Would he find her words to him in a slim volume of pulp lust? Mao's persistent little red book, the instructive erotic wiles of roses, Durkin's Pining Christmas, or the Doorstopper novel so full of chaw she was run through with child hunger. Linda might still await the right man or woman, why not? Caught short by bold statements, half-inch square capitals so firm and orderly under Durkin's fragile skin. A woman who knows you are weak, but worth your puddle, your red scarves of woe. She is waiting in the snow now, outside the cemetery, to hold your hand, knit you a hat, make love to you on your back, in the blizzard, in the mess you call your day. It is okay for her to date you, Christmas circa 2010. She has her convictions. She can show you, by heaven she will, shall be damned. And how you want her to, even now, how you do. A number of these poems were written in response to the recession of 2008, 2009. And like a lot of people, my job was in a precarious position. But you can only take so much abuse until you run out of steam. This is a bit about that. It's called burnout. Sorry I'm late, boss, but my cat has learned a new trick. Placing his paws on the arm of a chair, sphinx-like, staring out into the garden. No walling over squirrels, he leans into the stillness. That soft-eyed, focused concentration I never did master in Kung Fu. The feature would have been done, but I was distracted by a newspaper in the rain, not just wet, but half macerated, chewed by the deluge. It put me in that why bother kind of mood. The online broadcast? The voice is clear, but would you believe I wore yellow, so close in the spectrum to green screen? The cropped me kept fading out like a recurring echo, never quite coming into focus. Another love poem. Still life. The bowl we had our berries in still rests on the bedside table, spoons stacked atop one another, the seedy flesh of strawberry, a sticky film in its shallow base. How you call this romantic? The first I'd heard you use the word, sidling two sweet halves to my lips. I am listening to Mary Oliver read how the ear bone is what lasts longest in each of us, busy thinking of what we so easily lose within. You ask me whether I crave unique experience, material for my work. And yes, sometimes it's true, I forget to see. Although poems can't be happy, it's not just a one-way happy relationship. So I'm going to throw this one in, just to be clear. A night errant. Something consumed you tonight, a whiff of spite in your kisses. Silence slid onto a tongue, tied to a thought, then slipped back inside. Was it some press of gale against your faith? A shingle set askew? Let me take it, shim it back its space. Hell, hammer it down with a mace. Gladly, I'll get medieval for you. Just tell me why. And I think if you're struggling with your relationship or you're freaked out, I think metaphor is a great way to go. And that's what I used here. It's all good. She's heard them all before now, so it's okay. The hopes of a nascent nation. Still a loose confederation, its rulers debate the flag. What shall it embody? Civility, protection, brotherhood? Love is wrapped in there, yes, but it's too cliche to trumpet. All the best colors have been taken or have suffered the abuses of fashion. They settle for beige with accents. The commander-in-chief is working on the Wikipedia entry to solidify their international standing. He believes that in his closet keeps a bag packed at the ready. I don't do that anymore. Honest. I was talking about work before, and I usually introduce this poem by saying it's about a mean boss I had before. And it is true. It is a little bit about him, but it's really more about the things that we do to survive. And it's told through the experience of a Chinese scientist from the 20th century. Dr. Chen responds to his biographers. Perhaps I should be proud, the silk weave of my career captured, embossed, sewn between covers. My life, an ineluctable arc of 20th century. McCarthy, missile proliferation, Mao muddied in political dreams, a corolla of condemnations, the dead flower of our great leap forward. Then finally a kind of ascension, qualified by accusations I had turned tail on friends, achieving only hollow heights. Of course I am angry. Understand, survival is a skill, unlearning a chosen culture to embody the civic symbol until your shoulders loosen in the shell of this new self, though your lips taste bitter knowing. I did not write this story. That is your arrogance, believing in your linear code. I can't argue that from you, nor do I ask for pity. It made sense, family, safety, to want a simplified landscape. A mathematical world, basic equations ordering our lives. It had a kind of purpose, shouting ugly sparrows from their perches, chasing them from every surface until they expired of fright, exhausted. You too will seem ridiculous in others' eyes, calling forth the fragile bones of ghosts, searching for some true history. This next poem, I'm going to read just a couple or three more. Yeah, three more. This next poem started as a bit of a joke, as you'll probably get from the title of it. But I realized the person I was writing about had something to tell me, and it took a different turn. And it's called Flaming Hula Hoops for Peace. Again, true story. I am washing dishes when your brother-in-law tells us his niece is traveling the world, twirling flaming hula hoops for peace. Wake up to you, she calls it, her troubadour's demand over a pounding soundtrack, her 20-year-old face a wobbly globe of bliss. We watch it online. I think of the seventh seal, the night's attendant traipsing wisdom about death's door. Her uncle worries that it's on the internet, an indelible echo. I wash dishes all afternoon, each course of the family dinner demanding more soap and water. Cleanliness is essential. In such a small house, we are bound to run out of cups. In my last school play, I forgot the lines to Beauty School Dropout. My white spectre, silver-buckled, shuffling up a series of stairs into a mumbled heaven and a VHS tape castmates made me watch just the once. Neither radical nor raucous, I remember overconfidence for just a second, and the falling back to self, flightless. No hold but my feet leading me out of character, out of myth. A myth needs to be outsized to last. I have set nothing of value on fire. I have washed a lot of dishes. This next poem is the closest I've ever gotten to a ghazal in the form, and it's about our cat. I'm not wearing him tonight. Usually if I'm wearing a sweater, I have a fair amount of our cat with us and in body, but he's just here partly now. But we also have a local child in the neighborhood who drums at all hours of the day, and the two sort of met in between. It's called local politics. The dictator says he will die a martyr rather than leave his country. A neighbor's child negotiates his drum kit through our clapboard walls. Our friend Andrew's newfound isolation excites him, the code of the written word cracking in his hands. I tuck my lover into bed at 10:30, jimmy the latch of a new novel. Nights are sometimes a debate between youth and community. Here comes the solo. The dictator says over and over how much his people love him. Andrew says, what if the royal family were monkeys? Dressing them to our taste, they'd make a perfect circus. We could send a letter of complaint, but to what end? The cat closes his eyes to the tap-tapping, yawns, sneezes. Following his lead, we wrap him in a blanket, cut his nails, tidy the sharp edges. And lastly, I'm going to read this. It's a longer poem, and I have to explain it a little bit. When we first were together, Christy and I, she really liked to have her arm, she liked to have me run my fingers on her arm when she was trying to fall asleep. It would make her very relaxed and help her fall asleep, and just tickle her arms and Very, very nice. And I was very good at this for a little while. And you know, you get comfortable and you start slacking off. And then it's just sort of like, she's flopping her arm on the top of the sheets to say, I'm ready for you. And it just reminded me of a seal. So it became a bit of a joke and a bit of a poem. And this is somewhere between the two. But it turns out okay, right? You're still here. Still love me, mostly. It's called Suburban Inlet, a nocturne for two voices. The flicker lands loudly topside the sheets, a small seal grunting, snuffling her dream. A Galapagos or Australian nudging the breeze, molting as she bathes in night's cruel scene. Among our bay of houses, behind a reef of lawns, cat and man-boy gamble, scheming as our lover falls asleep. I'm reading about the fate of the pugnacious sperm whale in the thick blades and broad chests of Nantucket ships, riding a black sea of Victorian words, cautious of her wriggling in our bed's seaward pitch. Does she hear the sonar pulse of us stacking plates, the static fur against gadabout leg? We are both submariners now, I say, the unholy packed away in our watery skins. But she's a fine pinniped of the tickling kind, and clocks me not adrift on my whaler's mast, calls for a delicate scratch of nail on sleek upper fin and patient back. A bed of tamed anemones bruises her to sleep most nights, while man, cat, and boy lick the kitchen clean of sand, watching for the coelacanth and our other sightless brothers. Sleek upper fin and patient back has been a weakness of mine in all kinds of weather. Holding her in this fair wind's tack, I think maybe this time I'll keep it together. We listen as young dolphins leave the bars, the flood of their tails browsing the street. Youth in its thimble jar, I say, and the cat turns away. Circle me, she calls from the beach, so my hand lazily pendulums her starboard side. But with a shrug she dives and with her breech says, imagine a feather plucked to tame sleep's bride. Boy, cat, and kitten claw-tip to bed, whiskering her face an iridescent peck. A chorused purr, thick as any ocean, rolls beachward. The guards sleep, their tridents acquiesce. Concentration, she opines, is clearly what you lack. So I double my resolve in the muddy green light. My arm, a stylus morsing the seas on vinyl calls, the whales coo and bellow, made delicate, slight. Here is your small bark of animals, our shining coats, trim paws, the pads of our feet kneading the salt-rich dark. The art of pleasure is reduction, she burbles in my ear, as my finger traces tightly the space where she disappears. Thank you very much.